Welcome to Female Fluence. We are a place of women empowering women. This is a safe environment where females are not judged nor afraid to flourish. My goal is to help you live an energized life of balance, whether as a mom, a wife, or in your profession. It is time to have self-worth and self-compassion. Live in the present moment and surround yourself with only healthy connections. So join me, Promash Shur, a woman empowerment life coach, an educator, and a mother of three, to help take you on a journey of true identity and inspiration. We live in a world where so many people are struggling emotionally, mentally. They are overwhelmed, stressed, and exhausted. But amidst all the noise, there's one question we rarely stop to ask. Is there anything more valuable than your soul? The answer is no. Nothing is more valuable than your soul. Yet we live in a society that constantly tries to convince us otherwise, pushing us to measure success by status, wealth, and external achievements rather than true fulfillment. Well, real success isn't about how much we accumulate. It's about how deeply we align with what fulfills our soul. Inviting purpose into our lives gives us clarity, grounding, and a stronger connection to our inner being. Imagine the impact if more people prioritize their well-being and soul's happiness. It would change how we approach work, relationships, and personal growth. For example, staying in a job that drains you simply for financial security, failing to set clear intentions with those around you, or chasing success without meaning will only leave you feeling lost. Instead, true success comes from lifelong learning, self-awareness, and finding balance, especially in how we integrate our masculine and feminine energies. For women, the path to success often comes with unique challenges and the need to prove our ambition while navigating traditional business influences. But when we stay true to ourselves, success becomes more than just a title. It becomes a reflection of who we are at our core. So today, we will hear the story of a woman who redefined success on her terms and found her soul while climbing the ladder. My guest today is Kathy Gardarian, the founder and CEO of Qualis International, Inc., a multimillion-dollar company. She's a founding trustee with the World Business Academy and has served on numerous corporate and university boards, often as the first female voice. Her leadership has shaped organizations such as Vance Incorporated, the World Business Academy, and the Women's Leadership Board at Harvard's JFK School. She's also the author of a book called Wisdom of Love in Business that I have right here, and where she shares her journey of balancing spirituality with high-level corporate achievement. Her remarkable contributions to business and leadership have earned her the Lifetime Achievement Award from the National Association of Women Business Owners. Additionally, her company has been recognized as one of the top 40 women-owned businesses in Orange County in Southern California. Well, I am so honored, Kathy, to welcome you to Female Fluence. Thank you for being on my show today.
Well, thank you. I'm very happy to be here.
Okay, so we're gonna dive in. Let's start off a little bit talking. I know you start your journey in your book that you express everything that you went through, especially as a female, to get to where you are today, which is so impressive. Your resume is incredible, and you did not let any obstacles that come along your way, even though it might have let you backtrack a little bit, you did not let any of those stop you. Now, if we think about it, I mean, I know you're successful, but we all carry, especially as females, those, beliefs that's passed on to us from either generations, from family, from society. Were some of your beliefs, and how did you overcome them so that you could be the person you are today?
Well, it seemed like since I was a small child, I sort of knew that life could be better than I was experiencing. And then as I was growing up, I was very much interested in psychology and learning to find out who I really was versus everything I'd been taught and all my belief systems. And so what's interesting is that at the time, I was working for five men in Los Angeles that owned a company, and I was the only female in the room in the sales department. And I didn't even realize how much this impacted me, but I would have the highest sales totals, and there'd be like 30 guys in the room and me. And the president of the company would say, well, Kathy has the highest sales totals again this month. So how do you guys like being beat out by a skirt? And I just used to go home and get really upset about it. I could tell that but at the same time, I wasn't secure enough in myself to actually start my own yet. I kept hearing things like, well, you're a woman, you could never do this and never have your own company. And they would always bring, just the female down. And at this point, I think something within me clicked inside that said, oh, well, then let me show you. And it's interesting because I didn't even think I wanted my own company. I actually thought I was making a lot of money and I needed to just let it be the way it is and take that abuse. And it's very interesting. I think anger can be a really good motivator for you to make a change. You can say, just enough of this. And so I started to study names and I came up with Qualis because I heard it was the Latin root word meaning a degree of excellence and quality. I said, okay, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do it with excellence and quality. Then I added international. I didn't have any business, but I didn't want to limit myself. And then I incorporated. And I have to say that when I left, they actually still owed me money and they never paid it. And they called all over town and told different suppliers not to sell to me. I mean, it was really difficult. And at that time, I just kept doing what I call my inner work. I kept looking at how I was feeling, what was getting in the way, and what could I do to move forward. And, there's a quote I put in the book that I came to really realize is true for all of us. Once we take a deeper look inside and let go of anything that's a belief system that just doesn't work for us anymore. And I want to read the quote again because it's from Rumi, one of my favorite poets. He said, every moment I shape my destiny with a chisel. I am the carpenter of my own soul. So for us to create the reality that we want in front of us, we have to just keep looking at what is tugging at the inside of us that doesn't fit where we're going to be able to be fully self-expressed. Self-awareness is so important and it affects everything. And business is relationship. So it's also relationship with yourself and who are you going to bring out to the workplace. So
That's beautiful. The other thing I remember reading in your book that you share an experience with a significant person that you had a conflict with, and I really loved how you could have taken the route of either quitting or escalating the situation and getting into a conflict, but instead you led with love, which ultimately transformed the dynamic. So, what lesson did this teach you? And did it awaken the understanding that leading with love actually isn't just for the people we love, but it's for everybody? Kind of when we say you catch more flies with honey. So if you can kind of tell us about that, because I was really impressed by that, because every time I read and some of the ways that he treated you, I was getting angry. But you were so classy the way you handled the whole situation.
Well, let me just, little backstory to that is, I had this account for 7 years and I had a woman buyer. She left and I got him and he just dropped into my life. And he was difficult, really difficult. And I thought the easiest thing to do is to leave. But now, what I want to say before I tell you how I finished that whole thing you need to find your tribe of people. You need to find people who are doing what you're doing and that will share with you and also make you accountable for when you are totally off base. And I got to be in the World Business Academy. And that's a funny story because it seemed like my whole business career, I was always the only woman in the room. I don't know if that was my major lesson, is let's learn about diversity in business and you're going to play the feminine role. But I remember reading an article about the World Business Academy on a Saturday, and just reading this article, I knew, my gut told me, you must be in this group. So I want everyone to look for synchronicity of things that just drop in your lap. That as we get to know ourselves better, we can almost see what is the next best and highest use of us. So I remember calling, and the person that started this group was very kind. And I told him who I was and that I felt like I really needed to join this group. And this group was in San Francisco. And of course, I'm down in Southern California. And he said to me, well, you have to be a CEO to join. I said, well, I am. I didn't tell him it was only 1 year that I had my company. And then he said, well, you got to do a minimum of $2 million a year in business. I said, well, I'm way past that. Now he's really quiet. And I'm thinking, now what? And he said, well, you'd be the only woman. And I said, I'm getting used to that. And I said, I think that I can bring value and I know I can get value. So bottom line, I went up to meet him a couple of weeks later. And so it was the World Business Academy. And I had been in the academy several years when this event happened with this very difficult buyer. And I remember every month we had meetings and I would fly up there every month and we would sit in a group of these CEOs that really, they were men with much larger companies. And I was so blessed to be in the room. And I remember they did this intervention on me and they said, I said, he's really awful. And they said, well, okay, no more stories about him. We want you to close your eyes. Here's the process. They said, this is really what they said. They said, my eyes are closed. And this guy used to scream at me in my face really close and threaten the business and do all these things. So I'm closing my eyes and they say, do you think that this man is another aspect of the divine? Now I'm picturing him yelling at me. And I remember opening my eyes and all these men were in front of me. And I said, no, I might be one with all of you. I'm not one with him. And then they all laughed at me and I'm looking at them like, why don't they believe me that this is what I feel? And they said, I'll tell you what, close your eyes again. Do you think that he's coming from love or from fear? Now, in my heart, I knew then that they were right. He just couldn't deal with a woman. He didn't know how else to be than the way he is always in business. And with men, they have a different way of just expressing themselves. So when I realized that, that's when they said, we want you every time he's on the phone with you, every time you're in person with him, we want you to beam him love. I'm thinking, oh, and I have to tell you, so that was my intervention with the academy. But I remember I flew home and it's interesting with, again, synchronistically, the minute I got home from that meeting, the phone rings, it's him. And he says he's not taking any price increases and I need to get into his office now, and which meant flying to Atlanta. So anyway, the whole time I'm flying, I'm going, how am I going to beam him love? But I have to tell you, that works. And what I want to say about that is, again, business is relationship. We are energetic beings. And when we walk in the room, our energy can be powerful. And I just beamed him love and said to myself, I'm going to love you for the way you are and the way you're not. And then he would keep, anyway, what happened about a year and a half later, we had another issue with one of our suppliers. And he said to me, when you come in a room, Kathy, things seem to calm down. He said, do that. He didn't even know what I was doing, but he felt it. And then I remember he came to town like a month later and gave us like $5 million more in business with this other product. So, I just want people to know that, we're in charge. This is what I mean, but we can create our own destiny by our view of our soul and what we know that we can do. And I think at this point, women are so needed in business now. It's a time of moving them forward for sure. By the way, I had the same exact situations, not exactly the same, but I was the first woman on the board of Van Shoes. They never had a woman. And I served for 10 years, and I noticed always how men just think differently than women. And as we put when more women are integrated and respected in business, they actually do better. It's more fun. It's actually there's more imagination and change, and some things they don't even think about until a woman suggests it. So, yeah.
That is so impressive. And it's so powerful because when I read this, leading with love is not just for people you love, but for everybody. That really resonated with me, Kathy. And it's to a point that if I'm in a situation too, if someone, is not being nice or giving me a dirty look, like the normal reaction is to be like, whatever, like I'm going to do the same thing. But now that's in the back of my head. I'm like, no, you be the nice person. You do what you can because you can control yourself. And when you think about it, yes, where is that person coming from? Is it from fear? Then you will have better understanding of the situation because they can be, either insecure, scared, there's their own internal issues. It's not a reflection on you. And that's what I try to teach my kids too, because, especially, in the college world or high school, kids can be mean or there's different. So as long as you understand that has nothing to do with you and you can react the way you should, then that takes a huge load off and you can have a better outcome.
Absolutely. And we do have to be careful because some people are just actually more wounded than we even know. And so being kind is, everybody can be kind. That's just easy to do if you can remember that we really don't know where they're coming from, but everyone is actually an aspect of the divine. So that's how we have to hold it. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, for sure. Now, each time you shifted your attitude, despite difficulty from resistance to openness, it led you to new opportunities, as I, saw throughout your journey. What advice do you have to offer those struggling to stay open and go with the flow rather than the fear of, stubbornness blind or blinding us to opportunities or just being scared? So either being stubborn or scared and not being able to change that job, make that move on. It's hard, because once you are in the flow, you actually things keep coming to you, right? That's what you experience too. But when you shut yourself off and you're scared or you're stubborn, you're like, I'm not going to do this. They didn't want me. I'm not going to go try for this other opportunity. Then things will not come to you. So how can we give our listeners that advice to try to kind of let go and go with the flow, which is hard?
Well, it is. And again, I think doing your inner work and just every time something comes up, it's another chance to learn and to grow. And if you, again, say, I'm going to choose this for myself, it makes a difference. And, and a couple things that have happened to me in business that I found interesting. I had one client, I didn't know him for I knew him for 10 minutes when I walked in the room, and I had talked to him on the phone, and I knew the kind of products he wanted, and I had a whole stack of his paperwork on my lap. But at the same time at night, I was really studying reincarnation, just reading everything, studying, but I never thought you should mention anything like that because I think it's personal and I don't take it into business. So I have this stack of things on my lap, and the guy's talking to me, and I'm trying to find what he needs. And all of a sudden he says, Kathy, he says, I want to change the subject for a moment. He said, I would like you to tell me everything you know about reincarnation. Now, when I looked up at him, he could tell. I was like confused, upset. I didn't know, how would he know? And he said, oh, I see I've made you uncomfortable. He said, but my 3-month-old baby just died, and somehow I think you know something that I should hear. Oh. Now, I was amazed because I didn't know how that would happen. But of course, the energy in the room deepened. We got very open-hearted. We discussed a lot of things, and I got the business. We got the order. And when I walked out the door, I remember thinking, how does he know? And I think it was well before I knew that our energy fields are out there. We are energy beings, and whatever you're about is still all around your energy field. So that's the other way that we can be strong, is to know that anything we can do that helps people, they're going to probably pick it up. It's that balance of allowing everything to unfold organically and just be there for people. That's one thing. And the other thing was, I was in the academy just a few months and got the invitation to sit with the Dalai Lama. Wow. And they said he's going to be at a home in Newport Beach with only 40 people, and they've allowed a few people to be invited from the World Business Academy. And so, would you like to go? I said, absolutely. And then they said, well, he's also agreed to sit with each one of you personally, but we want you just to go in and be prepared with a question. Well, at the time, I had a factory in China, in the south of China, all women, making these merchandise bags for one of my clients. And it was just going well. I had 7 containers on the water going to the East Coast and the West Coast. And I was just doing well. And then Tiananmen Square had happened in 1989, where the Chinese government really killed about 3,000 students, and it was just horrible. And I had a lot of phone calls from people saying, you need to stop doing business with China and take a stand for human rights. I agreed with that. I just didn't know how to do it because my client was growing so fast and they needed the extra manufacturing. And so basically, I knew what I would ask him because I figured who better to ask about China than the Dalai Lama. So when I sat with him and met him, and he's lovely, he's funny, he's just his energy feels amazing just to be with him. And when he asked me about my situation and did I have a question, I told him everything. And I said, not sure what to do. I said, would you leave, as people have asked me to do? What would you do? Well, we were sitting on the couch, and he stood up. So I stood up, and he literally took my hands in his hands. And he said, Kathy, why would you punish the Chinese people further for the thoughts of a few? He said, it's not how you create your own reality. He said, the way you create your reality is you never think about what you don't want. That's a very powerful statement. And he said, and you only keep your consciousness in the pool of what you want to see. In fact, that's actually what will happen, is what you are putting out there is what you will create. So that's how you should handle this situation. And I remember I he looked at me and he knew I got what he said in my eyes. And I said, wow, I never held life like that. He said, and he knew that I had got what he said. And I ended up doing business 3 years longer with this factory. It worked out well, but it also shifted. It was another shift on how I held life and how I worked with people. So it's interesting just to stay with your personal experience and what drops in your lap next. Just see how the person you really are, what your soul desires, what you want to see in life is how you can put it out there. Yeah, I was very blessed. By the way, I met him 2 other times through the academy, and he remembered. He helped me. He helped me a great deal.
That is amazing. You also met someone else that's very spiritual, if you can share with us. And I think you went on a journey, right, with Deepak?
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Well, it's interesting because Deepak Chopra, I joined the academy, and I don't think I was in the academy not even a year. And Deepak wasn't a member of the academy. He was one of the many wonderful speakers that would write white papers and come and give seminars to all these CEOs. And because really the academy was about spirituality in business and ethics in business and how we can, again, become better human beings as leaders of companies. And so Deepak came as what was called an associate of the academy. And so I started to really work with him, and we did several things together. And then it turned out later that he started this one group that of all these people from around the world, he brought different people together. And he did ask me and one other person from the academy to be in the business end of it. And we've been very close friends ever since. And when I wrote the book, he definitely endorsed it. And I think that, again, I say find your tribe. And when I sometimes talk about the academy, my friends all go, wow, but your tribe was really, because really it was Gene Houston and Joan Borisenko and all of these people that I have actually were so much further ahead in this thinking than me, and really were mentors for me. So I really feel that's what we need to do. And we need to do it for each other as
Yes.
well.
And you really fought for that tribe because it was hard to get in, right? So it's
Yeah,
like but your intuition told you that this is where you belonged. You needed to get yourself in there.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I was frustrated because it was a Saturday and there was nobody to call and talk to. And I had to wait till Monday morning. That's how strong I felt. Because in Newport Beach, I mean, at the time, I would go to all these other meetings, but it seemed like the dialogue was up here and I wanted to go deeper.
Mhm.
I wanted more of what it is to be of service in business and to be of service to people. And everybody's so different. But again, one of my clients was the Home Depot, and I started with them. They had 25 stores in the whole country. And that was a lot of men to work with, and consistently men all the time. And even, there were a lot of different managers of the stores would call. You would interact with men all the time. And a lot of them, you could just see, some of them just couldn't accept women as easily.
Right.
And, well, we want to talk to the CEO. I go, well, you have her, It's very interesting how the diversity in business is still, it's the same as everything else, because I think everything is relationship. But in business, if I really wrote the book so women could see that I had to learn, and what I learned and what I created in front of you. And again, how you're thinking and what you put out there is what you're going to get back. I mean, that's a universal principle, really.
Of
Yeah.
course.
Yeah.
Yes. It's like the golden rule, right? Treat others like you want to be treated. And when you learn that in kindergarten. So,
That's it.
in your book, you make a lot of references, but I'm a huge quote person, so I'm
Yes.
highlighting, but I love your reference to a famous Persian poet, prophet. And it says, the place where you are right now, God circled it on a map for you. which
Yes.
is so beautiful when you just think about it, and it's so true. Now, have you always, I know you're very spiritual, but have you always trusted the process and believed you were exactly where you were meant to be? Or were there moments of doubt where you questioned the path and the people you encountered along the way?
Well, and that's such a great quote, and it's actually so true. I don't think it was a lot. It was some of what training I had along the way. I took this Earhart seminars training back in the 70s, and that was the first time I heard that really we're right where we need to be, and that's why we need to take responsibility for what we have and what we're doing, and that and now with epigenetics they're proving that we all have energy and we all have something to be. I think we're here on this earth plane to learn how to love and to learn how to be balanced and to actually find what drives us to be of service and in what area. Everyone's doing whatever they're supposed to be doing. And I didn't really learn that till I was in my 30s. But again, all along the way, and I didn't start my company till the 40s. So I just want to tell you that I just kept learning because that I knew was the way. And I really had just a lot of great training and but I pushed through because I was interested in doing it. And now I'm just trying in the book to sort of give the highlights so that people can see there's many ways to do it. And I find there's a lot of more consciousness today than even when I started. So,
Right.
yeah. So I'm actually very happy to be of service. And I think women today, like I say, this is a time of moving women forward. And we need more women on corporate boards. We do.
Yes.
That's still a low number. And I think that's already been proven that some of the public companies make more money when they have women on the board. I think California has now, there's a minimum of 2 women on corporate boards now. So this is a good thing.
Yes, it is a good thing. I interviewed someone a while back, and that's her mission, is to get like a certain amount of women on board, like worldwide. So
Oh,
it's so nice to see that that is being such a, big goal to make a transformation of what has been in the past, because we really need that. We need that shift. Now, as women, again, as we talk about, we are often conditioned to prioritize, everyone else besides ourselves. So we prioritize others at home, at work, in our relationships. But at some point, we have to ask ourselves, is this my dream or someone else's? Was there a moment in your career that you felt pressure to compromise your true self? And how did you navigate that? And I know you had some different relationships and you learned and you grew from it, but you realize what you have to do in order to be successful, not just in your job, but in your soul and in your heart.
right. Well, I have a friend that still, one of the first things he says to me, you've been so amazingly successful and you were a single mother. And that actually, and I think is becoming a little more common today, even. Women are amazing. I mean, we do so many things, which is why I think the feminine energy, when you put it into business, makes it so much better. I found a way to be balanced because I had a really good relationship with my son. I had just one child, but I think that I I didn't have a problem with that. I mean, we were busy. And then later on, after he got out of school, I said, why don't you come and work for me? Because now the Home Depot wants me to, store door deliver nationwide to all of their stores and all this warehousing and transportation. And I knew it had to be done, but I didn't like that part of it. So he took it over and did a great job. So for me, I don't know, it was always, I was so close to him and we just flowed with whatever was next. But you're right. There's a lot of women that have so much responsibility at home and then a full-time person. And it was different. I mean, now my life is so much easier because I can have everything now and it's not so difficult. But That is like an everyday thing. You have to make choices, and sometimes you have to just always find the time for yourself to be able to just regroup and just spend some quiet time with yourself, and you'll know what's the priority and what you should do, and then you should share from your heart. Authenticity is so important. It's really not covering up anything. It's actually just continuing to tell yourself and others what's really important for you.
Very true. Well, I mean, to add on to that, you did say that you were the only woman on the Vans board for like 7 years, which is so impressive. Do you believe, though, it's possible to have it all? I know now things are easier, your son is all grown up, but do you think it's possible for other people listening to think that they can have that fulfilling career, a strong marriage, raise their kids, and still maintain a balance without sacrificing your mental health, your physical being, and a sense of self, which a lot of us lose, right, as females?
Again, I know for myself, I would always just go back to how I was feeling and what I was putting out. Because remember, we're energy beings, so what you put out is kind of right there. And so I think you just have to take each day and choose how you want to handle the next situation that comes up. And everybody was different. I mean, some people that I worked with, because we did the 12,000 7-Eleven stores, we did so many big retail chains at the time, and everybody was different. And it's just sort of like you just had to keep adjusting, and not only your time, but your energy and how you reacted to other people. And I just had so much responsibility, but I got stronger and stronger as I went along, and then it was easier and easier. So it's really, again, where the inner work's everything. I can't say it enough. You just really have to listen, because your soul wants to be telling you all the time.
I
Yes.
mean,
And
I think honestly, from reading your book, I feel like I would see all the stages and how hard you were working and,
yeah,
going up the ladder, but you always made sure you were connected to your soul. Either you were going to some seminar that had to do with spirituality, something like that, that was just fueling you up and giving you the energy to keep working hard in your work. So I
yeah,
think we all have to find something like that, whether it's spiritual, whether it's a workout, maybe it's just being outside, something to balance ourselves out so that we can give that energy to our work, to our family, to our kids. But like you have said over and over again, really being intuitive and listening to yourself, to your soul, where is your energy at in order to be successful? So I completely agree with you. And so really to sum up, spirit and success are not opposites. They thrive together when we learn to balance both masculine and feminine energies. True alignment comes from embodying and honoring both with integrity and love, like Kathy has been saying. When we
mm,
do this, we step into our highest path where success is not external, but deeply soulful. We have everything we already need within us. When we recognize this profound truth, we shift from a mindset of wanting to one of welcoming, allowing abundance of flow effortlessly to come within us. I want to close with another quote from her book, from Richard Bach, which she shared. It said, "To bring anything into your life, imagine that it is already there. This is the essence of manifestation." Kathy has shown us today that true success begins with discovering our soul's purpose. Kathy, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom with us on female fluence. It's just been an honor. Is there anything else before we end that you would like to add?
well, I just want to say, remember, whatever you resist persists. So go ahead and let go of anything that you need to just have a joyful, abundant life. Create what you want. Yes. Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank you
Joy.
so much. Thank you. All the links and how to contact her will be in my show notes. Thank you.
Thank you everyone for tuning in today to Female Fluence. Together we can influence and motivate other mind-like females. Your job is to feel alive, be in control, and always be true to your own self. Please don't forget to subscribe so you can continue feeling inspired. All the links and notes from this episode will be posted on my website, femalefluence.com. Don't forget to also follow me at Female Fluence on both Instagram and Facebook. Lastly, if you are in need of a woman empowerment life coach to help you identify the barriers that keep you from living the life you seek, please send an email to info@femalefluence.org. Remember, my friends, don't just exist, but live your life to the fullest. I'm your host, Pearl Mashur. Until we talk next time.